So as we roll in this Friday the 13th, we're going to roll some of the big crashes and bashes and train wrecks. You shouldn't run from the cops. Don't park where you're not supposed to. Here's the first one. You get this, you see that? That is a truck and a train just about ready to hit the impact. There you see it take the truck right out like it isn't even there. Wow. Next one up on the hit parade, another train crash going in. Let's look at this as you're seeing it. There's equipment parked in there. Backhoe that train made mincemeat out of it. Incredible stuff that happens. It's pretty darn tough to stop a train. This is another one. Hauling a load of pipe in an old Mack truck. Looks like the old Ford cabovers. Almost exactly like the old Ford cabovers that Mack designed. Story for a different day. Look at this. Boom! That pipe knocks the old cab off like it wasn't even attached. Sprint cars can be dangerous. Sold, I think, from Paris Auto Speedway. Let's see if she rocks and rolls. There it is, rolling into turn one, and boom, up against the fence. Just a good old boys, meaning no harm. See this Dodge Challenger coming through, being chased by the cops. They thought they had him barricaded in, but he makes a detour through the field, just like the Dukes of Hazzard rolling through on that. So one of the great chase scenes. They didn't quite have it prepared like they thought. Couch surfing. Hadn't heard of this one or seen this one, but here we go. As they roll down like the ski jumpers. Boom! Man, that was a pretty good shot. I got to give the guy credit on that one. Here's another one from the hit parade. Here we go. Yes, don't run from the cops.
Full speed, boom, tased, hits the ground, skids across the pavement. Look, kids, if you don't want this to happen to you, don't run from the cops. This might be the best tase video I've ever seen in my life. Look at that. Sprinting, full speed, boom, tased, hits the ground, skids across the pavement.
Don't run from the cops is good advice. Here is the famous 1970 Richard Petty crash at Darlington Speedway, where he miraculously he only broke his arm in this crash, but there he is hitting the wall upside down. That was a horrific crash. I saw that. That was on ABC Wide World of Sports. We thought he was done, but miracle upon miracles, he survived with only a broken arm. Do not park where you're not supposed to. There's a dude, look at that. Drove his semi. So wonder he didn't blow the whole darn place up running over the pumps. Man, some of the things you see on a Friday the 13th. Don't like the United States of America? Think Viva Mexico is the way to go? Then why are you still here?
Okay, buddy, back to Mexico you go then.
No! Please don't make me go back to Mexico.
I thought you loved Mexico.
Viva Mexico!
Okay, buddy, back to Mexico you go then.
No! Please don't make me go back to Mexico.
Well, stop waving the Mexican flag. And if you're in the US of A, there's nothing stopping you from going back. Please do. Good old Dick Trickle. Doing this David Pearson impression. Here we go.
Having a cigarette. You know, he has a cigarette lighter in the car. He just reached for it.
Reminds us of the days of David Pearson. He used to...
David Pearson back in the 60s and 70s had a cigarette lighter. Had the cigarettes taped on the dashboard. And the Woods brothers had a cigarette lighter in there, and he would do smokes in the 500-mile race. fun stuff from back in the day when safety wasn't necessarily the first word out of everybody's mouth. More on the sprint car crash fest. Here we go. Here you go as he rolls in there. Bam! Up across, into flames, up on top of the fence. There it is again as he rolls over the right rear. Not a very smart or good for your health thing to do. I can attest to that from firsthand experience. Why San Bernardino, why is this chick walking on the roof? Only, as this deal says, only in San Bernardino of that. Maybe we'll get it figured out one day. These are wild. These are what they call the stock cars over there in jolly old England. This is some wild stuff, man. If you ever have time or you're on cruising the net and you want to see some just absolutely fantastic footage, but here's one of them. They do run opposite. Sometimes they run our way. There it is, upside down, over and about. These guys are absolutely wild over there in the UK. Again, boys will be boys. As you see a monster truck into the water, full throttle, on the gas, all the way through. Reminds me of the Sippy Hole in Naples, Florida, of that last one for this on a Friday the 13th. There it is. Boom, diddy, boom, boom, boom. Sprint cars and midgets. Anything, like I've said, most anything you do with a helmet is probably not the best thing to be doing. That's why they call us the retarded half of the population. There's the equipment on Friday. It's Friday the 13th. It goes crazy as usual on this day. Hope you're having a great Friday the 13th. Tomorrow is our esteemed El Presidente Donald J. Trump's 79th birthday. So we want to wish good old Donald J. a happy birthday. They'll be celebrating the Army's 250th anniversary, which coincides with his birthday with a parade in Washington, in the District of Criminals, as we say. Lots of crazy stuff. Newsom got his ass handed to him again after he had a short victory, which is going to be overturned, if not by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, by the Supreme Court. Charles Breyer, who was the brother of Stephen Breyer, who was a Supreme Court justice. Charles is on a U.S. District Court out here in San Francisco. Why is that not surprising? He ruled 100% in Newsom's favor. Of course, Newsom had to go out there. Soon as it hit, man, he's all over, jumping all over Trump, calling him everything but a white man. And it wasn't about an hour later, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which by no means is anything other than a very liberal bunch, although two of the appointees on the three-judge panel were Trump appointees. They put a stay on it, so Trump is still in charge, rightly so, of our National Guard and military forces here in Los Angeles trying to keep the peace, which the LA officials, Gavin Newsom, have been unable to do. Now, there's supposedly these new Kings rallies are going to come up all over, especially Southern California. And no doubt, we're going to just be inundated. And the Riverside employees, which absolutely was ridiculous, they backed up and said, oh, they used an excuse to get off till today at noon. Absolutely 1000%. Just as ridiculous can be. Here's the chump on PMSNBC. Let's see where we're at.
What do you make of the president today coming out and saying he wants to protect California farm workers from deportation, given what you...
This is what he does. He creates a problem, and then he tries to be a hero in his own Marvel movie. Did it on fill in a blank on almost every topic, creates the problem, and then tries to do a make-believe as if you're all perfect little sheep, and you're going to go on with it to be the hero in his own Marvel movie. He initiated those raids. He significantly increased the scale and scope of those raids. That's why he wants the National Guard. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of guards, men and women now, being dispersed everywhere, sprinter vans, unmarked, people with masks, running in, rolling over, some case running into cars, 6-month-old kid, a 3-year-old child in the back of the car, left. So, spare me, Mr. President, that he's sincere, but if he is.
The whole Newsom, I'm Mr. Indignant act that he's got going is 5,437% absolutely ridiculous. And it seems like he's a complete, utter moron. Because like we said, within 30 minutes of him making that indignant and castigating Trump, he's out there just making a complete loon of himself. We got to get to that first part again.
What do you make of the president today coming out and saying he wants to protect California farm workers from deportation, given what you...
This is what he does. He creates a problem, and then he tries to be a hero in his own Marvel movie.
That is exactly what Gavin Newsom does. He is the one who creates these problems, and then he tries to come in and walk in with a solution on them. And it's absolutely 1000% disingenuous that he thinks he can get away with this stuff. But each day he thinks that he's Mr. Cool. And that he just really believes that he is God's gift to the world. See if this works. Ah, it's back. I unfroze myself. But no, it's totally ridiculous. He's the one that creates a crisis where one doesn't exist. And then he blames Trump. This is what the left does 9,432 times. They're creating this crisis downtown LA. We're coming up with the Churla is just the latest thing that's coming up. $37 million just in this one organization to agitate the hell out of people, to keep the chaos going, create a crisis where one doesn't exist. Like the fool says, let's roll that again.
What do you make of the president today coming out and saying he wants to protect California farm workers from deportation, given what you...
This is what he does. He creates a problem, and then he tries to be a hero in his own Marvel movie.
Again, it's precisely what Gavin Newsom does at every opportunity. 34 of that 37 million came from the state of California that Gavin Newsom pointed a gun at every one of us Californians, took the money out of our pocket and gave it to Churla to go down there and run these agitators to start this. Just like with whatever the No Kings deal is supposed to come tomorrow. And Riverside, no way. You should not have let the employees out at 11:30. What the hell are you scared of? You're just looking for an excuse to take half the day off. First place, the protest is coming on tomorrow. And if Riverside Police Department or whatever, you can't keep it safe, then we need to deal with that. You're showing weakness. You're buckling to them. We can't have this stuff at all for any reason. Thinking we have to be bailed out by the Ninth Circus. We'll see what their decision of it'll come next week. They usually don't do this unless they're going to reverse the decision. It could go to the full Ninth Circus, but then the ultimate is going to be the Supreme Court, which it's probably going to get appealed. Now, maybe if Newsom, if he loses, and maybe if he appeals it to the full Ninth Circus, they may not choose to hear it, and then it will die. If it doesn't and they hear it, and they reverse it again, which is possible the whole Ninth Circus will, then it most likely, Trump's going to appeal it to the Supreme Court, and I would say pretty good odds the Supreme Court are going to hear this. But it was great to see Newsom. You haven't heard a peep from him since the Ninth Circuit Appeals Court put a stay on Charles Breyer's disingenuous order. Almost every legal scholar up to the point was saying Trump's going to win this. And he had a 36-page report coming out, within an hour after hearing oral arguments between the two. They already had this set up. Holy smokes. And I would like to say something else, but I want to get to this guy. So let me put the preface on. We're running it raw. So if you're sensitive to the F word or the S word or all that other stuff, please roll out for this segment. But this guy is speaking the truth. Like we did on the intro, the one guy, he asked him, well, if you're so red hot on Mexico, then why don't you go? What are you doing here? So again, if you've got sensitive ears or you don't like four-letter words, please tune out for a minute or two while we play this gentleman who had some very salient points.
Going on in LA, I 100% do. Please keep going. Burn down your own backyard if you must. You know why? Because this right here is the greatest campaign ad that this side never had to pay for. Y'all motherfuckers out there in Los Angeles throwing a full-blown fucking tantrum. Like y'all just crawled out the Rio Grande, screaming death to America. In a country that gave you the fucking freedom to do that shit. You were born at Kaiser Permanente in Burbank. Stop it. You ain't El Chapo, you're Chris from Pasadena. You ain't...
I love that. You're not El Chapo, you're Chris from Pasadena. You were born in America. Most of those you see protest, the paid agitators are definitely from America because they know how to get the graft. They know, like Salas and stuff, know how to get the 36 million and then spread the wealth, as Obama said. It's the same thing like on the intro one. Hey, if you're red hot on Mexico, if Mexico is a place to be, nothing's stopping you from driving across the San Ysidro border. If you're in the Inland Empire, until it takes you about an hour and a half to get down there, roll right in. Tijuana, Ensenada, Cancun, whatever trips your trigger. Mexico City, check out Mexico City. Great place. You'll love it. Here we go.
Cartel born. You were Target born with a Costco membership by age 5. Half you motherfuckers protesting ain't even Mexican. You're American with Mexican heritage.
Yes. That is the point. You're here. Most of them are. Most of them out there collecting the graft are Americans. They were born here. They're Americans, as the man said, with Mexican or whatever heritage. Well, I'm part Native America if you take the Indians. But yeah, I got an alphabet soup of how far do you want to go back out in the ancestry? Who knows if the Indians were the first ones here? I have no idea. We have no documented proof. You know, maybe the Alaskans beat them here or something. How did the Indians get here in California in the first place?
And a tattoo of the Virgin Mary you got on a Vegas bender. Don't get it twisted. I respect the heritage. But flying a foreign flag while shitting on the country that gave you the fucking freedom to do it, that's not pride. You don't even...
Yes. You are an American. And if you don't like America, there's a lot of real estate across this globe called Earth that you can have your ass in. Mexico, China, Ukraine, Iran. Go for it. Go for it. Tell us how great it is down there in Ecuador, or Peru, or Colombia, or Venezuela. Argentina might be good because Milley's turning that country around. That one I might give you.
Even go to fucking Mexico unless it's for spring break in Cancun with a passport you got from the U.S. government. And you won't go live there. Why? Because you like your DoorDash, your 7-Elevens, your air conditioning, and your freedom to scream dumb shit without a cartel rolling up on your motherfucking ass.
That is the key. Please go down to Mexico. You go to Cancun where you're in the resorts and they tell you, do not get off the resorts because you will most likely be deader than a doornail. Because Mexico is a totalitarian, cartel, corrupt country. It's an S-hole. We are not allowing an S-hole of Mexico. I don't care. Please, David Lahr, tell us, bring Extian, whomever you want. Navarro's, Perez, whomever. Please come in here and debate me on this. Show some guts. Because if Mexico is so great, get your little ass down there and run with the cartels. Tell me how you like it.
Let's be honest. Ain't nobody screaming death to Mexico while flying an American flag through Guadalajara. You know why? Because that's how you end up in a back alley, starring in Cartel TikTok Season 3. Meanwhile, the rest of America...
Exactly. All you guys shouting this or trying to send our money or protect this or Mexico flag that. Yeah, go down there and pull the same crap you're pulling here, or just say the same crap you're posting or saying from the dais. Go down there to Mexico and pull that. Yeah, you'll be starring in Cartel 3 with your head cut off in the middle of the frickin' street saying, you want to be the next one to come on here and challenge us? That's the reality of the situation.
America is sitting back watching you block freeways during rush hour, destroying businesses, wearing $300 fucking Jordans, screaming about injustice, in the city with the most social programs and diversity hires in the fucking country. Y'all are the political version of throwing a Molotov cocktail at a fucking Prius because you're mad about gas prices. So listen, I'm not mad you're passionate. I'm mad you're dumb. And your dumbass behavior is helping the other side more than a Trump rally in Texas with free brisket. Every time y'all riot, loot, tearing up your own shit, you're just birthing another red voter. So yeah, I support the protest. Keep fucking going. Keep flying flags of countries you ain't got the fucking balls to move to. And shitting on the system that literally gives you the right to shit on it. Someone asked me...
111%. That dude is spot on. Hit it out of the ballpark. And it's 100% truth serum. Lock, stock, and barrel. More of this. Let's go back to the George Floyd riots. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis put a policy up. Says, if dudes are in front of your car threatening you, you have every right to run their ass over. You don't believe it? Here you go. Let's see if we can get this going. Let's see if Ron is here. Here we go.
We also have a policy that if you're driving on one of those streets and a mob comes and surrounds your vehicle and threatens you, you have a right to flee for your safety. And so if you drive off and you hit one of these people, that's their fault for impinging on you. You don't have to sit there and just be a sitting duck and let the mob grab you out of your car and drag you through the streets. You have a right to defend yourself and flee.
You have a right to defend yourself in Florida. This, and we didn't get to play the whole Brevard County Sheriff, but this is 4 years later. You notice how in Florida you don't see any of these dudes with the Mexican or whatever flag rolling around or protests or any of that stuff? Here's the Brevard County Sheriff.
So I'm gonna break it down for you, all right? And if somebody wants to know what I mean by turn violent, all right, this is what I mean. If you resist lawful orders, you're going to jail. Let me be very clear about that. If you block an intersection or a roadway in Brevard County, you are going to jail. If you flee arrest, you're going to go to jail tired because we are going to run you down and put you in jail. If you try to mob rule a car in Brevard County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave, in our county, you're most likely going to get run over and dragged across the street. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail, and most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here.
1 minute, Roy, 1 minute.
Or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at, because we will kill you graveyard dead. We're not going to play. This has got to stop. You're watching what's taking place out there. You're seeing police officers that are being attacked, being spit on.
That's why you don't see any riots in Florida
30 seconds.
or any of that stuff over there, because DeSantis put it in there 4 years ago, said, hey, if they're screwing with you, if they're trying to block you, run them over. And the Brevard County Sheriff said, you pull that crap in my county, and you notice it's not happening in Florida.
Here we go, 10 seconds.
Gonna hit the Mighty Met KME.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met, 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the aforementioned AM band. Join your vast video audience in the Evil Flipping Network, Rumble, X, YouTube, on the Roy Bleckert channel, and all that good stuff. On this fabulous Faster Than You Friday the 13th, on that you got to check out, go to iNewsWire, check out our intro. We have some of the most amazing crashes, the sofa slide, trains blowing through equipment and trucks, all for Friday the 13th on that. And again, like we say, we got to wind down over all the chaos going on. Of course, Israel hit Iran over the nuclear, saying they're going to have nuclear weapons and they ain't going to have it. Iran tried to strike back. We're going to see how that conflict plays out. We have Gavin Newsom got his kangaroo court, which nobody figured on. Well, nobody said was even hardly possible, except in California. Stayed the order or said Trump doesn't have the right to have the National Guard or the military in L.A. They're going back to Newsom. Well, the Ninth Circus Court of Newsom makes this big indignant, oh, Trump's this, he's a dictator, I'm the baddest, I won. An hour later, the Ninth Circus said no. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals said no, we're staying this again. We're staying Charles Breyer, the fruitcake from San Fran. We're killing his, we're putting a stay on his order. We're going to take this up. So Trump is still in charge of the National Guard in Los Angeles and the military troops. And you ain't heard a peep from Sissy Boy Newsom since. It's been one of the most amazing. Again, the weeks just keep going by. Trump's getting more popular. More people are going, Viva la Trump. His popularity is sky high. As much assault as he has went through on all sorts of fronts, he's doing better than ever before. And it's not real hard to figure out. Because he's doing the right thing. He's doing what's best for the American people. You just gotta love this guy.
And I may have to force something. Somebody said, "Who's the genius that thought of that?" I said, "It's me." Unlike Biden, I stay awake at night thinking about how to save our country. He was much better at sleeping than me. Could sleep on a beach. He could sleep on a beach with cameras rolling. I can't do that. But I had an idea. I gave it. They said, "This is really, we'll go short term for a year."
There hasn't, I guarantee you, there's not been a better communicator, more humorous president, more upfront, more down to the earth, man of the people than the richest president we've ever had, as far as if you want to take material wealth. He relates to the American people like nobody else has, as the other 46 presidents on the list. No wonder the people love him in the majority. The haters are going to continue to hate. Although they're getting a smaller percentage, but you're always going to have some. No matter what, it's not a perfect world. More stuff is breaking out on Chura and this California nonprofit. Just like Colleen Strong did a while ago when we were at Riverside County, and we stopped Rainbow Pride from getting an $800,000 contract. We didn't stop True Evolution or whatever their name was. But they're involved in these political activities, along with Corey Jackson, Assembly Member Sabrina Cervantes, here in the Inland Empire and others, the Alphabet Soup Caucus and all this stuff. You know, we heard USAID on the national level and how they're laundering this money through the CIA, through the military and all this. Other billions of dollars. Well, Churro's the latest. $34 million in our money from the California state and about $3 million under the Biden administration. And they're down there organizing the agitators, protesters. Hey, Jim McDonald, the LA police chief, said, yeah, we know who they are. They're the same agitators that show up on all this stuff. He didn't name the groups, but he knows what's going on. He don't want to say it because Bass would fire his ass. The buffoon Bass. Here's Kevin Kiley, who's been on the show. When he was assemblyman, now he's a congressman from up in Rockland, California. Here we go. Well, we thought we were going.
Detain them in the community in a very targeted and standard way. They blow it way out of proportion. They get people riled up. They demonize ICE. And by the way, they have nonprofits that are helping them, that are funded by the state, that then tell people where ICE is at any given moment. And then adding fuel to the fire, literal fires, as we've seen. You have Newsom and Bass who go out and vilify and tell people, essentially egging them on.
So, you heard Newsom, well, if you're those of you in KMET, but you can go back to IA Newswire on all the social media platforms and watch it. Newsom, when he was getting his little indignant speech yesterday, said, oh, Trump's creating all this crisis and stuff. You lie in sack of blank. You know, you are the one that's, along with, you created this Biden buffoon Bass. You've been funding this. Bass, go look at the Mike Benn stuff. Go look at him on X. He's been saying for years, Bass has been a tool of the communist, Chinese, agitator crowd for decades. That's how she got her start. Before she was in the assembly and then in Congress. You know, she was mentioned as a vice presidential candidate before Biden picked you know who. This stuff is crazy. But we've had 34 million of that, of California taxpayer collected dollars. 3 million to the federal government. Trump shut off the last 100,000 that was appropriated in the Biden era. I want to run the CBS 2 Churla report before we get to the more juicy details. When we get to this, and again, this stuff is starting to blow like you've never seen. Here we go, hopefully.
Going after people helping the people in the community who help them. KCAL reporter Lori Perez continues our in-depth coverage tonight.
As ICE focuses its attention on...
Well, of course, it's got to run. We get the ICE raids. But all this stuff we're finally uncovering. The corruption, the tip of the iceberg. This is the reason now they're trying to stop Bill Asaley, the U.S. Attorney's appointment that Trump made. They're trying to prevent his confirmation out in the District of Criminals because they know once Trump got in and he put in Tom Homan and Kristi Noem, and people like that, were 100% going to stomp them into the ground. They're the absolute corruption that goes on is stunning. Well, the video isn't going to play, but here's the headline from CBS. Churla responds to potential investigation of nonprofits' involvement in LA protests. Of course, they're screaming, oh, it doesn't have anything to do. Remember, I'm going to take you back to Rainbow Pride at the Riverside County when we brought that issue up. They came up and said, the Rainbow Pride folks, as I remember it, we can go back and look at the tapes, come up and said, oh, all the allegations Colleen, Claudia Ramirez, myself were making, oh, these are false allegations, yada, yada, yada. Well, they dropped the contract for $800,000. Who walks away from an $800,000 contract like this? Oh, of course they're going to deny. Salas, they had that set up. They wanted to deal with Herta. That's why Stanton are trying to impede the cops. They're trying to create that just like Padilla did. This stuff is backfiring on them, rightfully so. This is in Fox News. Arissa Noem Annie. I'm going to try to get, hopefully I didn't butcher that too bad. The 2.1 billion machine behind the spontaneous, in quotes, anti-Trump protests. Pearl Project investigation exposes 189 Democratic organizations orchestrating Saturday's No Kings demonstrations. That's supposed to be tomorrow. Of course, and it goes on as they got that. As the National Guard faced off against protesters, Los Angeles Powerful Teachers Union president, I think she's National Education Association, Randy Weingarten hosted a virtual town hall with the Democratic Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear and two leading political operatives in the Democratic Party politics, Leigh Greenberg, founder of the political nonprofit Indefensible, and Reverend Al Sharpton, founder of another political nonprofit, the National Action Network. Greenberg hailed on an upcoming wave of protests this Saturday. And they're talking about Sharpton and all this stuff. This guy, and sorry, has been investigating this for many years under the Pearl Project. Here's some of the 189 groups that are allegedly affiliated as the paid agitators. 3 entities of the Democratic National Committee, College Democrats of America, Manhattan Young Democrats, West Side Democratic Headquarters in Norwalk, 16 Democratic Political Action Committees and PACs, including Friends of Bernie Sanders, Progressive Democrats of America, and Vote Blue. We all know about the allegations and the money laundering allegations on Vote Blue and Act Blue and all that. 18 Democratic aligned 501c3 labor unions, including United Federation of Teachers, which I think is Weingarten's deal, United Auto Workers, Communications Workers of America, National Treasury Employees Unions, with a total of $1 billion in revenues. 76 Democratic aligned 501c4 political ones, human rights campaigns, and the list goes on and on. Unitarian Universalist Association, Michigan Resistance Coalition. Do you get the theme that's going on? He's been tracking this since 2017 when Trump came on the scene and was first elected. All this, the Jewish Voice for Peace and Seniors Empower Chicago Action Fund. Where did Barack Obama get his political start? Along with the 189 groups behind the No Kings with revenues of $2.1 billion, there are another 276 groups that have been organizing protests against Trump with revenues of $1.3 billion. You know who's funding that? You, mostly. It's not George Soros. It's not whomever they've been trying to align you with the boogeyman. All this stuff has been a coordinated attack. When we talk about the deep state, and the Chinese Communist Party, and when they try to go Russia, and Trump was in when it was really Hillary and Obama and Biden. Look, at Sharpton gets 600 grand from the National Action Network, just from that. American Federation of Teachers, Randy Weingarten, almost $500,000. ACLU executive Andy Romero collected $1.3 million, according to his group, in the latest tax filing. This is what Ansari said. This is what is behind the protest. Elite partisan leaders and ideologically motivated networks using the mask of social justice to wage political and cultural warfare in America. We've been saying this on this show for the almost, and it's going to be here in less than a month, 9 years I've been broadcasting on these AM airways. The protests are manufactured. They're being paid for by us. We are the ones that are responsible for electing the politicians, especially in California, that have been doing this. So if at this point, like the gentleman we ran on the IE Newswire broadcast, if you don't get off your rear end and you don't start pushing back politically on this stuff, they will win. They know they have time on their side. And as they say, they're doing it with our money. That's, as they say, the facts, Jack. Before we get to the local report and wrap it up for this week, more on the Tampon Timmy situation. Here's Eli Crane questioning old Tampon in Congress yesterday. Hopefully, let's see if this plays. Maybe. There we go.
Ball. If it's 25 feet, then I'll invest in a 30-foot ladder factory. Do you think that that helps our federal government carry out its law enforcement, its border security and policy operations?
When did I say that? You know, he talks about this wall. I always say, let me know how high it is. If it's 25 feet, then I'll invest in the 30-foot ladder factory.
You went on Anderson Cooper and said that. You not remember saying that? Because you've said so many outlandish things that you can't even keep track of them?
The point being,
how about when you went on there?
He knows damn well he said that. You know, you could have a little respect for the dude if he would just say, yeah, that's what I believe. At least with AOC or Mad Maxine or the buffoon Bass or Biden or Harris, at least they stick to their guns most of the time. Even Newsom, he's going down with the ship. There's old Comer, the head of the committee that was running it yesterday. Here we go.
Let me get this straight. You put tampons on boys' bathrooms because of personal reasons, am I right?
yes, that is correct.
Okay, and may I ask what reasons are those? I mean, do you have like a trans lesbian whatever in your family, sir?
No, sir. I don't have any trans lesbians in my family at the moment.
So what reason do you have for putting tampons on boys' bathrooms all across your state, sir?
Well, to be honest, one day I saw a tampon in our bathroom and I thought, why not? So I tried it on and it kind of felt nice back there, you know. It kind of gave me a little extra pep on my step, if you know.
And you can't TikTok is something else. I mean, where do you get some of the stuff that comes up is absolutely comedic genius. Just so we know. And Tampon Timmy and like Gavin Newsom is so enraged that Trump's putting the National Guard. In Southern California. This is Tampon Tim with the National Guard running down the streets, making sure people aren't coming out of their houses during the COVID con. There are
They just keep coming.
Go inside! National Guard. Get inside! With the Bearcats.
Get inside! Get in your house now! Let's go!
And this is Tampon Timmy.
Go inside now! Get in the house!
Get in!
Assaulting Minnesota citizens. Plain and simple. That was an assault. To do the COVID con, which was total BS, but he is opposed to upholding the law in California and the United States law. You cannot make this stuff up. It would be impossible. If it weren't true and you didn't have documented proof, no one would believe it. Get on to as we close out this Faster Than You Friday the 13th. They're hiring in Corona. We'll run through this as fast as we can. The killing low-income budgets at California legislature. It's almost that. Rat Rod City. We love the Rat Rods. Safety on the road. Myriad of cops on e-bike safety. There's more Southwest sheriffs on the summer concert service at downtown closing in Riverside. RPD Redlands Police Department with their weekly update on that Trump signing the executive order to keep us safe, of course, of that night of destruction of Paris Auto Speedway going on. Riverside sheriffs graduated their correctional deputy academy, so did a good job with that. Coffee with a Cup in Temecula this morning. Emmy nominations at the district attorney's office. I think there's a few more. See if we can roll through that. Oakley, newest Chino Canine. Welcome, Oakley. Of that Rancho C, cops get some new patrol volunteers. What's up with that? Yes, we're fine. Maybe we're going to get that hospital finally. A teenager died in a collision in Woodcrest of that. Sad news. Some dirtbag stole a tent from Marchfield, allegedly. Unreal. That'll do it for today. This Faster Than You Friday the 13th. Mandatory, you're back here 71 hours live to hear the best darn show in the whole wide world. Till then, see ya.
The preceding was a paid program.
All right, Roy. Well, hold on to your hats tomorrow. We'll see what the hell happens.
We'll see what goes down. Hopefully it's not interesting, but you never know.
Oh, well, if they've been planning this for months, they got something up their sleeves. You know what I mean? So.
Oh, I'm sure there'll be some fireworks somewhere coming on. They just can't help themselves.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, there's going to be some paid agitators in there somewhere doing something.
Well, that's the whole deal. I mean,
I heard that the paid agitators are going to be the ones. They're going to be wearing all MAGA hats and stuff in the crowds, trying to provoke everybody.
oh, I no, they're going to try and pull some S. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I heard that. It's just ridiculous, man. I swear to God that this Civil War is coming.
No.
All right, take care.
Okay.